Are you looking for affordable land? Today, I'll show you real owner-financed land that's actually affordable, and we'll look at whether a simple system can supply all the water you'll ever need. So here's what we're covering today. First, a quick update on the properties that have sold. Then our deal of the day. And then next we'll dive into rainwater harvesting using North Carolina as an example and answer the question of whether rainwater harvesting can supply all the water you need. Then I'll give you our fact of the day and a free gift just for being here live. Sound good? Let's get into it. So before we dive into rainwater harvesting, my name is Erica. I have a company, Gokce Capital, that buys and sells land. You can find our website at gokcecapital.com. That's Gokce capital.com. You can find all of our listings under Buy Land, where you'll see this map here. Now, a quick update on our inventory. You see that we do have properties throughout the U.S., and we do have a number in North Carolina. We actually had a 1.84 acre lot in Northampton County just go under contract, so congrats to Albert. And if you were eyeing it, sorry. But remember, our deals move fast, and especially once they're on hold. Of course, we have new ones coming in, and so that's why today I want to highlight a beautiful property in North Carolina. And as you can see, we do have a number of properties in North Carolina, but if you're not interested in North Carolina, we also have properties in Florida, New York, New Mexico, Colorado, and Oregon, and almost all of these do come with owner financing. So let's look at today's deal. Now, if you scroll down to the table below the map, we are going to cover number 704, and this is a property in Pamlico County. So this property is for those who love the water, fishing, and the slower coastal lifestyle. The idea is you would wake up, hop onto your boat, and in minutes you'd be on Dawson Creek, which you can see is here right next to the property. And yes, the West Virginia property did also sell, so that's another update that I should have mentioned. We had a property in West Virginia that sold. So if there's a lot of interest in West Virginia, we can look at acquiring more properties there. Just let me know. And this is a beautiful community. It's not crowded, and there's plenty of space on the boat ramps. So it's a chance to own a beautiful parcel in coastal North Carolina. You can see from the images just how beautiful this community is. A lot of the homes here are pretty high value as well. So if you're looking for a property that could increase in value once you build on it, this would be one of them. So who is this for and who isn't it for? And let me scroll down to the drone video so you can see the surrounding community. And I do always want to be clear who a property is for and who it isn't for. So I would say this property is not for someone who's looking for like an off-grid, unrestricted lot. And certainly someone who really doesn't like HOAs, this is not the right property for you. But if you want a secure gated community with paved roads, paved maintained roads, resort-style amenities, and if you love boating or fishing, this would be a really nice lot because it does come with your very own private boat slip, which gives you access to the water whenever you would like. And that's one reason that people buy into this community is it does have a private marina. And each property owner has their own spot on that private marina. So it's really a lot for people who love the water. All right, so very quickly again, this is 0.59 acres. It's in the Shine Landing community in Pamlico County, just off Dawson Creek. And the cash price is $28,793. And that's a good point. This is also right next to the community center if we zoom in. It's actually right by the clubhouse. So if you're really into pickleball, it's one example, or you're pretty active, it's nice to have that community. You could just walk out your door and walk to the gym or the pickleball courts. We actually I know there are a lot of people who are looking for communities like that, particularly maybe someone who's looking to retire but wants to stay active. This would be a great community for someone like that. And the cash discount price is $28,793 plus the dock fee, but we do also offer owner financing. The terms, we'll work with you on the terms so that there'll be an affordable down payment and monthly payment. And we don't have a minimum credit score requirement. So that's a value that would make it easier to afford this property. And if you want to do your due diligence, I should also mention that our owner financing does come with our 365-day land exchange guarantee. So for the first year of the loan, you can exchange the property for another one if you find, for whatever reason, there's another property that works better for you. And that gives you some protection that you'll be getting the lot you want. You can also hold the property. It's $50 for 2 days. You can hold for up to 8 days, and that allows you to do your due diligence before you pull the trigger. And there's a good question. What reasons do people give who buy in gated HOAs? Yeah, I know. I hear a lot of comments, anti-HOA comments, but I do know that there are some people who specifically look for HOAs. And we did have one buyer who mentioned that he would only purchase in an HOA. So there are a lot of reasons why someone might want an HOA. One big reason would be security. A lot of people like gated communities because it provides that extra level of security. In some areas, that's very important. Others just like that no matter where they are. Another big reason why someone might want to buy in an HOA is for the amenities. Like, for example, in this lot, you're getting the clubhouse and the private marina. So I think there are a lot of people who are looking to retire specifically in a community like this. I know that there are also a lot of them in Florida, but looking to retire in a community like this because you get a lot of amenities. Usually, like, the clubhouse comes with a social scene as well, maybe weekly happy hours, things like that. So it lets you build a social network. And finally, in more rural areas, an HOA can be very important because it maintains the roads. In many rural areas, actually, the county doesn't maintain roads. So you need a community like this to make sure that the infrastructure is in place. But for anyone who is very much against HOA, because I know there are a lot of you, we do also have some unrestricted properties in North Carolina. One really good example is this half-acre lot in Bertie County. This has no HOA, and let me double-check the zoning. Yeah, it actually has no zoning. So this is an unrestricted property. So this would be a property for someone on the other end of the spectrum who wants no restrictions at all. And I know there are a lot of you like that. So we do have properties that cater to a wide range of tastes. And this one is also a beautiful property. You can see here, very green area on a quiet road, still fairly private, but there are homes in the area, so you're not in the middle of nowhere. And you do have easy connection to a main road and towns nearby for amenities. No sound. Everyone else can hear me, right? Just want to make sure that the sound's okay. And Judith, by the way, thank you for joining. It's good to see you. So my team can flag for me if there's an issue with the sound. But that covers our deal of the day and our properties. Now, I wanted to highlight North Carolina because I was going to use North Carolina in my case study. And the question we're looking at is, and it came up yesterday, can you supply all your water needs from rainwater harvesting? Which was a big question when you're talking about off-grid properties. We were talking then about desert properties. But somewhere like North Carolina has more rain. So the question is, in a wetter climate, can you actually supply all your water yourself just through rainwater harvesting? Great. Glad you got that figured out, Judith. So let's dive into that. So the first question we have to ask is how much rain do you actually get? And this site takes a little bit to load, but let's look at a map of North Carolina. Oops. So we can see that we're over here from our sample property off Dawson Creek. We're over here in the coastal area. We're probably getting about 42 to 50 inches of rain. And, oh, that's a good point. I should define rainwater harvesting. So rainwater harvesting is when you collect rainwater, usually off of your roof, and you store it in a cistern for use. Sometimes it's just for irrigating your plants, but other times people use it for non-potable purposes. Those would be things like washing. And sometimes even with the right filtration, and we'll get into that, you can use it as drinking water as well. So yeah, the first thing you want to ask is how much rain do I actually get? And the average in North Carolina is about 49 inches. It looks like where we're at on our sample property. And let's see, yeah, that's a good point. Let's see some visuals of rainwater harvesting, so we all know what we're talking about. Okay. Here's what a simple setup might look like. You have the rain, it hits your roof, comes down the roof, into your gutter, and then you collect it from your gutter in a pipe. You put it through whatever level of filtration you need for your uses, and then you store it until you need it. And from there, you distribute it to your various needs, whether that's just your garden or like your toilet or your washing machine. And if you have a really sophisticated setup, you might even be able to use it for drinking water. That's the idea. And these systems range from very simple to a little more complicated. All right, now, the next question is, okay, we know how many inches of rain you get in the area. How much can you actually collect? All right, so there are calculators that help you determine this, but a good rule of thumb is if you have 1,000 square feet of roof, you can capture about 600 gallons for every inch of rain. I won't go through the math of that, but let's say we're getting 49 inches in our Pamlico County. So you're looking at about 30,000 gallons of water a year with 1,000 square feet of roof. If you have a bigger house, you'll be getting more. And that sounds like a lot, right? I don't know if anyone has a guess of how much water the average household needs. So what do we think? Is that enough water to supply one household's needs for the year? And we can pull up averages. So according to the EPA, the average American uses 82 gallons of water a day. So that puts you at, typically, yes, the roof is what is used to catch rainwater. There might potentially be other ways to do it, but that's how most of the systems are set up. Yeah, it depends on how long you spend in the shower. But what that means is the average person ends up using about 30,000 gallons of water per year. So in our sample case, if you had 1,000 square feet of roof, you could supply all the water needs potentially of one person. Now, if you're single, that's really great news, but even if you have a family of 4, that's a pretty good chunk of your water budget. So it's still a pretty good system. All right. But another big question would be, is it actually safe to do something like this? And I think that's the big question that stops people from using a system like this? And the answer, of course, is yes, if you have the right system. There are different levels of filtration, so it really depends on what you're using your water for. And that is another question. Do you need a county permit? And that is going to vary. In North Carolina, you are allowed to use rainwater, even for drinking water, as long as it is treated to drinking water standards. But you do need to follow county plumbing codes, and you will probably need to submit your system for approval, again, if you're going to use it for drinking water. So here is a very simple example of how you might filter that rainwater so that you could eventually drink it. You'd have 2 layers of filtration here. This is a basic sand and charcoal filter, so it uses sand and charcoal to pick out a lot of the bigger debris and, dirt, stuff you don't want. And then you use a UV lamp to sterilize it. And if the county tells you to build a stormwater pond, can you do rainwater harvesting instead? I don't think so. I doubt they would accept that because it's a pretty different system. A stormwater pond would be generally collecting the water from a whole catchment area from ground flow. And the rainwater system will only be catching water that falls on your roof. So it wouldn't fulfill the full demand a stormwater pond would. A stormwater pond is designed to collect a lot more water, and it also collects it from the ground and from runoff from a much larger area. But you could ask. I mean, it doesn't hurt, right? Okay. So you can, with the right setup, use this water as your drinking water. But the other big question is, would it be worth it? Like, how much does this actually cost? But it's preventing water from going. That's true. It would reduce the overall burden on the surrounding area because you are preventing water from falling on the ground. So I'm sure it helps. But again, you're only collecting water from your roof footprint. So maybe if you have a giant house, it would make a big impact. But I think a standard house, I don't think it would by itself invalidate the requirement for a stormwater pond. Again, you could ask. Doesn't hurt. So the cost is going to depend on your kind of system. There are some systems that are very, very affordable. Like if you basically just set up a collection bucket under your gutter and then you use that water to irrigate your plants, that can be, $1,000-$2,000, maybe a little more. Yeah, you just need a giant celebrity mansion. There you go. But a full house system that would also include adequate filtration is looking more at $8,000 to $10,000, depending on where you are and how big it is. So it does cost a fair amount of money. And to put it in perspective, if the other alternative is city water, you spend around, say, $500 to $700 a year in North Carolina, based on average pricing in the area. So it's going to take you quite a while to actually break even on a whole house system if you have city water available. But that's not really the reason. I mean, the main use case for something like this is an off-grid system, somewhere where a well is really expensive or infeasible, or you're doing this for reasons other than cost. You just like the idea of saving water, being self-sufficient, or you want, a simpler system that doesn't cost you very much that you just use for your garden. So can you do solar plus rainwater harvesting at the same time on your roof, or does one prevent the other? That's actually a really good question. I didn't think about that, so I'll have to ask Mr. GPT. And yes, you can, but there are a few important considerations. So solar panels are smooth which means that water will run off them just like any other roof. So you could theoretically set up a regular rainwater collection system. In fact, because panels are even smoother than most roofs, they may improve collection. But you just have to keep in mind that you'll want to maintain your panels and keep them clean. And they'll have to be angled properly to make sure that the water flows off. But yes, it looks like the two are in fact compatible, which is good news for anyone who wants to be completely self-sufficient or live off-grid. All right, so let's look at one really cool case study before we wrap up here. So to really answer the question, can you supply all of your water needs with rainwater harvesting? So initially I had said that you can supply in Pamlico County, you could supply all the water for one person, but here is a 4-person house that runs entirely off of rainwater. So how did they do this? Well, mainly it's a very large house. They have 11,000 square feet of roof area to capture rainwater. So that means that they are collecting, let me get the exact number. They're collecting a whopping 335,000 gallons of water per year. And that's a good question. How does a well? So in this case study, they don't have a well. They couldn't get a well. This is a mountain property, and there was too much bedrock. They basically had zero water on their lot, which is unusual for North Carolina, but that was the case here. So there's no overlap. But I don't think that there would be any issue with having both a well and a rainwater catchment system. All you'd have to do, because you just have the pipes connect at some point. That makes sense. So this is pretty cool. They're able to collect an incredible amount of rainwater, and at any time they can store 7,000 gallons. They have 4 tanks. So here, in short, is the answer to our question. Yes, you can supply all your needs with rainwater by itself. So pretty cool. All right. Now, if there are no other questions, we can get to our free gift. Oh, and I almost forgot the fact of the day. Who do you hire to figure out whether the rainwater harvesting system would work or not? There are professionals who design rainwater harvesting systems and engineers. Yeah, so if you're doing like a whole house system like that case study, you would have your engineer design it because it's going to have to meet all the county requirements for drinking water, potable water. So let's get to our fun fact of the day, which could save you thousands of dollars if you want to set up a rainwater system yourself. So the fact is that one of the biggest mistakes people make when they set up a rainwater system is that they overspend on their tanks. So one common misconception is that you need a tank that'll store a whole year's worth of water, and you don't need anywhere near that in most areas. So you only need a tank that's large enough to carry you through your longest expected dry spell. In North Carolina, that's usually only about a month. So that's why this 4-family house case study that we saw only has 7,000 gallons worth of tank storage. And that's for a 4-person household. So you can save a lot of money on that because tanks are surprisingly expensive. A tank that would supply you for the full year could be $10,000. So one way you can save money on this system. All right, so I'll be checking to make sure there are no other questions, but if not, I do want to share our thank you gift. We do have 2. So the first is our free guide on 17 simple ways to generate income from land. And the link to this is in both the description and the pinned comment. In the description pinned comment, you'll also find a link to our listing page, which is land.gocap.com. And you'll find all of our properties there, including many North Carolina properties. And if you would like a discount, our second free gift is a coupon for $200 off any of our North Carolina properties. That's valid through midnight tonight. The code is LiveNC200, and that's valid until midnight. So just put in LiveNC200 when you go to checkout. And again, our website is land.gocap.com. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Judith, for joining. It was so great to see you. I'll be here tomorrow at 2 p.m. Anyone have any burning topics they would like me to cover tomorrow? If not, I will surprise you all with something interesting. So thank you again. Website is land.gocap.com, and I'll see you tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern.